Good evening, everybody. Or good evening, everyone who's going to watch this afterwards. We'll give it a couple of minutes before we get started, and I'll introduce who's with us this time. Slightly different to all the other ones, but we'll give it a minute or so. But I hope everyone's enjoying the hot weather. It is certainly hot sat here.
It is indeed, but we still have our...
Yeah, you can't go without a cup of tea.
You can't go without a cup of tea.
I also have some water though, so...
You can't.
But there's... I like the sun as much as the next person, but it's fair to say general election campaigning in this heat is... I mean, it's good for the suntan. I'm wearing a good white shirt, which shows off my crisp colour. But it's better than a December 2019 campaign in the dark. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
But I can see we've got a couple of people watching, so good evening if you're just joining us. And let me kick off and introduce who we've got. So obviously you all know me. My name is Anthony Higginbotham, and normally when I've started these over the last 4.5 years, I've said my name's Anthony and I'm your Member of Parliament. I can't say that now because Parliament is dissolved, and so my name is Anthony Higginbotham and I'm your Conservative candidate in the general election next Thursday. And with me isn't Jamie that you're used to seeing. This time we've got Abby, who is going to act as question master. We thought we'd go with someone, given we're in the general election campaign, someone a bit more neutral, but still here to hold my feet to the fire, make sure I'm answering all of your questions properly, and keep track of what's on the screen. But it's fair to say it is difficult to sometimes keep track of what's on the screen and ask questions. So I'll go easy.
We've got this.
And hopefully everyone else does as well. Everyone else does as well.
Yeah, perfect. So, we've got to go first question.
Go on.
How are you feeling? How is the campaign going?
How's the campaign? So are we 4 weeks into it? Yeah. So Rishi called the election. Almost a month ago.
Crazy.
I love general elections. I love elections in general. I love speaking to all of you, be it on the doorstep or on Facebook Lives like this or at hustings. That's, you can't get into politics and not like talking to people, right? So I love that aspect of it. How's the campaign going? It's tiring, right? I mean, there's 55-ish thousand houses in Burnley, Padiham, the villages, and now we've got Bryfield in there as well. So about 55,000 houses, 75-ish thousand electors. So that's a lot of people to try and speak to, and obviously that's what I've been doing for the last 4.5 years, trying to speak to as many people as I can. But in a general election, you're kind of on turbocharge trying to speak to more people. So, but you're trying to do that at the same time as getting out all the leaflets that tell people what I've done and what I think our area needs moving forward. So, fair to say, busy time. Getting out and about is best bit. Even in this heat, as I said, it's allowed me to develop a bit of a suntan as best I can.
And not burn.
And not burn. That's the key in an election campaign. If I take my Apple Watch off, then I do have a bit of a... You can see my natural colour, which is slightly more pale than I appear today.
Brilliant. So, first things first. So we know that. Well, I've seen it a lot on Facebook. I'm sure a lot of people have as well. That the Labour candidate for Burnley, is he from Manchester? Is that right, Anthony? Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Well, as far as I know, he was a councillor in Audenshaw, I think, which is Tameside Way, similar sort of area to Angela Rayner.
Okay.
And that's his background, right? And I don't begrudge anyone choosing to stand for office, right? But I think that there's a point by which you should try and be from the area you want to represent, or even if you're not from the specific area, like understand the issues, the problems, because we got a mindset we've got a mindset in Burnley. I grew up in Rosendale, right?
Yeah, very local.
10 minutes from where my office is now is where I grew up, and we've got a way of thinking about things, and we're proud of our culture, proud of our heritage. We're engineers, innovators, and all those things. And I got into politics because I want to do something for the place I call home. And my worry when you find a candidate, like we've got with Labour's candidate from Manchester, my worry is you get someone who's actually more interested in politics as a stepping stone to, do you want to become an MP just so you can become a member of the government, just so you can do this? But what's it all for?
Yeah.
And for me, politics is about doing stuff around here, for the place I call home, the place where my family live, all of your families live. That's politics for me. So,
that makes sense, yeah.
But each to their own. But I think the electorate will judge it. We've seen, we've seen before in Burnley what happens when you get parachuted in candidates like Kitty Usher. That's when the A&E service went, right? Because why did it happen? Because we had a member of parliament who had been parachuted in, who didn't know the area, didn't know how important it was to us, and I think it's a shame that that's what the Labour Party has offered us again.
Yeah, it's just strange that why would he want to stand in Burnley? Why do you think?
I would suspect that he's in with the Labour crowd, the Angela Rayner type people, because he's from the same kind of area, and was on the promise of what they would see as a safe Labour seat to return to. And my job over the last 4.5 years is to show that no seat is safe, that this is not a safe Labour seat. This is an area that I can win, Conservatives can win, because we actually have a track record of delivering. And as I said, that's what politics is about. It shouldn't be about having a safe seat for the rest of your career, which is what I fear the Labour candidate is looking for. It should be, what can you actually deliver for normal people who do call the area home, and who care about the schools, and who care about the hospital, and who care about what the town centre looks like. Whereas if you're parachuted in from elsewhere because you've got friends in high places, then as I said, we see what happens.
So we've got a few people watching already. So two different Stuarts have said hello.
Hello.
So we've got Don on as well, and a lady called Sandra. So before we get into questions that have come through, we'll just touch on reform as well. So we've seen reform in the polls, and we've seen how they're kind of doing there. But locally, have you seen them do anything? Do you know if they're campaigning locally, or active locally, or
no? Well, they're not. They were invited to a hustings last week that I was at, Labour were at, the Liberal Democrats were at, the Green Party were at, the Independent, one of the independent candidates was at, and Reform didn't turn up. And I think that tells you something about their commitment to the area. Look, I understand people's frustration with my party. It's frustrations that I've shared for the most part over the last 4.5 years. One, we've not got everything right, but two, on some issues, we've not gone as far as I would like, and I know as far as residents would like. And so I get why the temptation for reform is there. That's why they're doing all right in the national polls. But we know locally that they can't win. Why can't they win? Because they're not even trying. They've stood a candidate who, again, like the Labour candidate, isn't from the area. Who isn't trying. You go on the Reform website, their list of areas in Burnley is numbered 1 to 8. There's not a single name next to it. So they've not even bothered to find out that we're a town, we're a constituency that includes Burnley and Padiham and Worsthorne and Hapton and Cliviger and Briarfield. Right? If you can't do your basic homework, then you shouldn't have a right to expect people to vote for you. And as I said, I get why people are frustrated. I get why people are tempted to vote Reform. But when everyone wakes up on Friday, the 5th of July, there's going to be one of two people who are your Member of Parliament. And that person is going to be sent down to the House of Commons. They're going to sit on the green benches and they're going to say they speak for everyone who's watching this Facebook Live and the 75,000 people who live in Burnley, Padiham, or the village that I've just mentioned, and the choice that everyone's got is who they want that person to be, and it's either me or Labour's candidate. And I genuinely believe that not only do I have the passion and ambition and love for this area to do the best possible job, but I think I'm in with the best shot.
Yeah.
And so my ask to everyone watching who is flirting with the idea of reform is, don't let them take you for granted like the Labour Party is taking you for granted. They're not mounting a campaign because they can't win. And I get your frustration, but you need someone in the House of Commons who is going to fight your corner, fight for your values of lower immigration, common sense policies, be your voice, whoever forms the government. And
Still need a voice, right?
Exactly, we still need a voice, and people shouldn't give that away because frustration, as it is, could tempt people to go and send the Conservative Party, my party, a message. But that message lasts 5 years. Your vote lasts 5 years. That's how long a Labour government would have, right? That's how long a Labour MP would be in this area, and think of the damage they did when they were last in government, when they were last representing our area. 5 years, they can do an awful lot.
Like you said, the last one closed down.
The last one closed down the A&E. They lumbered all of our secondary schools. Everyone will remember all our secondary schools closing, being rebuilt. They've all been rebuilt using PFIs. So all of those secondary schools are still paying back the money. So when Labour talk about bringing money to the area, what they're actually saying is they're going to give with one hand and take with another, because they're going to make all our public services pay for it. Same with the fire station, same with Burnley Hospital. The limited money they put into Burnley Hospital was PFI money. The money they put into secondary schools in Burnley was PFI money. The money they put into the fire service was PFI money. And the £52 million that I brought in Leather Nut money is all proper cash.
Yeah. That's
not money that a public service has to pay back. It's not money that Burnley Council has to pay back. It's money to invest in infrastructure, and £20 million of that isn't spent yet. It's to be spent on what residents actually tell us they care about.
And is that through initiatives like the town board?
Yeah,
so things like that?
£20 million for the town board, and they've not spent a penny of it yet. That's still all to be determined. But the town board includes the Member of Parliament. So the Member of Parliament has a really important role to play. And again, I'd ask residents just to think, who do you trust to fight your corner on there? Do you want another Labour politician who's more interested in, pleasing Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer, or do you want me, right, who gets out there every single weekend and knocks on your doors and does Facebook Lives like this, so you can put forward ideas to me and I can take them away and I can do something about it? And you're right, town board is one example, but there's loads of other things. And my job, if I had the privilege of being re-elected, is making sure that that's not the end of it. Right, there's so much more that I think we could do. Right, so Burnley General Hospital, we want to keep moving services back.
Yeah.
We want to get a feasibility study on a new slip road. We want to develop. We want to build phase 2 of the Paddy and Flood defences. So that, I talk about 52 million and in Leather Nut money, and there's other funding on top of that. But there's more
to come
that we still need to do.
And we've seen development, right? We've seen. You've changed the town. You've changed not only Burnley Town Centre, but obviously Paddy, we've seen a change in like the High Street, and we've got the flood defences there.
That's the thing, and
so you see change, right?
Yeah, and that's what people should expect of their politicians. I want people to cast their mind back to 2019, or look at the Paddymon Parade photos from 2018 and 19. Look at Burnley Town Centre from then. Look at what was where now Pioneer Place is. That was a car park. It was a car park that had plans on the page, and now it's a brand new cinema with multiple restaurants, including the Nando's, which everyone told us they wanted to get into Burnley. So you can do these things, and as I've said, I've got a track record of doing it, and I'm determined to keep doing it.
Yeah, and this kind of links to Sandra's question that she's put in tonight. So she knows you've been working with the Hospital Trust to see services restored at Burnley General Hospital. Can you update us on your plans to get a new radiology department with more diagnostic machines, allowing faster diagnosis and better treatment? So just a quick update on anything you've got there.
Yeah, and brilliant questions, Andrea. And my plan with Burnley Hospital has always been, right, the holy grail, if you like, is a return A&E. That's what every resident, if you ask them what they want for Burnley General, it's restore A&E.
And you get so many comments on that, don't you?
Yeah, and I would love to say that I could do it overnight, but I don't believe politicians should make promises they can't necessarily fulfil. And if I sat here and said, I'm going to fight to bring it back in the next couple of years, I just don't think it's
But
possible
others-
from all the conversations I've had with the trust and the government. But that doesn't mean we can't keep pushing,
Yeah.
because the more you invest in the hospital, the smaller that gap gets, so that you can eventually mount your case and go, well, hold on, we've done all of these things. Now it's not quite so big a leap to restore a full A&E service.
Okay.
And if you look at where healthcare is going, right, we've got an ageing population, healthcare is getting more advanced, you can do far more. So actually, I think there is a route to doing it, but as Sandra says, you've got to invest in it right now. That's what the new radiology suite would do. And this is something that I've not just come up with off the top of my head, it's something that I've worked with the trust on. So it's in their plans to do a full new radiology suite, because they know the impact it would make to healthcare. But what that needs is, it needs someone to go to government, to go to the Department of Health and lobby for it and secure the funding for it.
Yeah.
So we've moved some diagnostic back, we've got some extra breast cancer screening, we've just got some state-of-the-art endoscopy machines. So these are the machines, if you need a camera to go down your throat to look for things like cancers, or you've got problems going on in your indigestion system, then they can do all of that. And you know, the reason these ones are really good is not just because they're state of the art, but they're less invasive. And it's obviously quite an invasive procedure to have.
It is.
So the more comfortable you can make someone, then the more access you've got. The quicker you can diagnose the problem, quicker you can diagnose it, the better the treatment you can then deploy.
Yeah.
The better the outcome for the patient. So we've started that journey, but the full new radiology is where we want to get to in the next couple of years, and that's what I'm determined to push government for. You know,
Yeah.
I've raised it in the House of Commons before. I've raised it with government ministers, including just a couple of weeks back before the election got called, when I brought
Yeah.
the health minister to Royal Blackburn to see the issues we have there. But in talking to her about the issues in Blackburn, I was also saying, this is the
what we need.
opportunity in Burnley.
Yeah.
We can move some of the demand that's on Blackburn back to Burnley. That makes the Blackburn services better, and we all know the problems there.
Yeah.
And it keeps us investing in Burnley, because the worst thing to happen would be we don't invest in Burnley. Well, what happens in a couple of years' time?
Yeah, and that links to Don's question. Sorry, Don. The Lib Dem candidate says, you know, he's promised to campaign to return A&E to Burnley. He said the same thing 14 years ago. What's changed then? Or is this just a subject to gain votes? Like you said, you're on the path to that track, but you're not giving false promises and false hope. So do you think that's the same for him? Or?
Yeah, I think that is the same. And look, as I started the answer to that question saying, I'd love to sit here and say, I'm going to get the A&E restored. Politically, it's probably the best thing you could say.
Yeah.
But I also think you've got to be honest with people. And far too often, you know, the thing you hear on the doorstep is politicians promise the world and never deliver it. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that's my way of politics. I don't think it's the right thing to do. So what I try and do is be honest with people.
Yeah.
So do I think the Lib Dem candidate, like me, wants to see the A&E service restored? Of course I do. We all want to see that. But my worry is making false promises just to get votes.
Yeah.
That to me, one, it doesn't instill trust in politics and politicians, but two, you know, I just don't think it's responsible.
No. And so Graham's coming. So WASPy Women.
Yeah.
I know you get this quite a lot on your lives and a lot of questions. What's your view, and do you agree with the Ombudsman regarding compensation?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, really complex problem.
Yeah.
That has bedeviled successive governments over longer than I've even been interested in politics. In fact, I think the Ombudsman investigation has taken far too long, frankly. We've made a commitment in our manifesto to deal with this as quickly as we can. I don't think it would be right for me to sit here and say at the outset, I think we should increase the compensation or we should pay that immediately, right? Because the amount of money we're talking about is too vast for me to make that commitment as someone who wants to be your local. What I can promise is I will continue to make sure that every resident's voice is heard on this issue, and make sure that whoever is in government knows the strength of feeling and knows that we need to find an outcome, because we cannot possibly allow it to get to a position. You know, if in 12 months' time we're still talking about this and we've not come up with a resolution, then politics has failed. And So what's my view on the WASPy women is that in the next 12 months we've got to sort it, and we've got to sort it in a way that is fair for everybody. The WASPy women, the taxpayer. How you do that, I think the government has got to bring forward a set of proposals, whichever party is in government. But my job is to make sure that I'm the voice of residents.
So another one, traffic congestion. We know it's a big problem.
Yes.
In Burnley.
Terrible.
It is. And we know you've done a video on it, things like that. Can you update us on your plans with Lancashire County Council to look at a westbound slip road?
Yes.
On the M65.
So, I mean, we all know the problem, right? That getting out of Burnley town centre, whether or getting into it first thing in the morning or leaving it last thing, is an absolute nightmare. Part of that is because of some of the roadworks happening at the minute, but that's not all of it. There is just also a general problem that to get onto the M65, if you're at Burnley College, and let's not forget that's got thousands of students, and I would suspect more than 1,000 members of staff. Then you've got Crowwood, right? Hundreds of guests there.
And with that expansion there.
Yeah, you've got an expansion going on there about to open. You've got Pioneer Place with a full cinema, multiple restaurants. You've got the Sainsbury's up there, right? So you've got so much on that side of town.
Yeah.
And to get onto the M65, you either have to drive all the way into Briarfield, or you've got to go all the way through Burnley Town Centre to get up onto the top.
Yeah.
Huge amount of traffic. Simplest way of dealing with that, as I can see it, is a slip road just near the Asda, so at the Burnley College Crowwood side, slip road there, travelling towards Blackburn, Preston, M6, because we've already got one going towards Colne, but it only goes for like 2 junctions, right? So if we can add a slip road there, so problem number 1 is get the money to do a study.
Yeah.
Because you can't do anything unless you've got the funding to employ the consultants. So we got that money. Yeah. That's the money that's gone to Lancashire County Council. It's using funds from HS2.
Okay.
Because HS2, people will have seen, Rishi cancelled the northern leg of that because it was so over budget. It was a bit of a white elephant, and let's be honest about it, it wasn't going to make the blindest bit of difference to people around here. No, so he said, let's redeploy that onto schemes that actually make a difference. So Lancashire County Council received just under £500 million from that. Wow. And that allows them to do those feasibility studies. Hopefully it allows us to do something on the Paddy Greenway Bridge as well.
Oh, because I know that's a big...
Right? Yeah. So we've got this huge pot of money. Now, I'm not going to say £500 million is going to build the whole slip road, but what it will allow us to do, get the feasibility study, get it engineered, what would it look like, what land do you need, how expensive is it going to be, and then I can work with Lancashire County Council and government if we need to then say, right, okay, we've got this study, here's the economic benefits of it, and I think the economic benefits will stack, based on everything we know that's happening there.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
And it would, from a commuter point of view, there seems to be this trend away from catering to drivers and catering to every other form of transport, and actually, how do you get around Burnley and Paddy and all of that? It's in the car, right? So we need to make life easier for drivers. That means reducing congestion.
100%.
And improving the state of the roads, incidentally.
Yeah. Which, so I'm guessing some of that pot of money.
Well, so on top of the almost 500 million, there's another 244 million. Wow. That's the pothole road maintenance.
Okay, so that's different.
That's different. It started this year. It's a multi-year scheme, so it's going to take time for that to roll in, because what you would want Lancashire County Council to do is to buy some better equipment, better machinery, so they can fill potholes quicker and in a more sustainable way, right? Because the thing that infuriates us the most is when you see a pothole, then you see it repaired, but it's repaired so poorly, it breaks in. And
then we have to go again.
And then you've got to go again. So you want Lancashire County, or I want Lancashire County Council to invest in new plant and machinery so they can repair things faster, better, more efficiently.
Amazing.
That's part of that pot of money. So there's kind of 2 pots of money, all for local transport. But I would say, I've got to say, the Labour Party has said they are going to review all capital spending. And that includes that pot of money. So it is entirely possible.
So does that mean they could take it away?
They could, in theory, take all £750 million away, just as they could take away the £20 million Towns Board. They could.
Okay.
And the problem is, they've just not said they're committed to it.
Yeah.
This would be fine if they turned around and said, and then the Labour candidate in Burnley hasn't said he's committed to it.
Yeah.
So I've got no idea whether he's going to go make representations to Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner, if they're in government, to say, no, we need this money. Like,
I mean, that's a huge thing, you know.
that would sap tens of millions of pounds out of Burnley and Padiham for Labour's pet projects and other things. And, you know, as I said, it's a shame that Labour won't commit to it, but my job is to keep fighting for it.
Of course. So Roger's commented, and this kind of links to a question that we've had when we put out about the live. Do you feel let down by your party's betting scandal?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. Look, I said in an answer to an earlier question that I understand the frustration that people have had with my party, their frustrations I've shared over the last 4.5 years at times, and you know the news over the last week or so has been a part of that, right? I mean, I'm out here fighting for every single vote I can in Burnley and Padiham and our villages and Briarfield, because I think I've got the right answers to the right questions, and I think I can be your voice effectively. And the thing that frustrates me the most is that there's this drumbeat of negativity, and I'm not going to say all of it is driven by my colleagues. Some of it is just driven by what, you know, if I'm honest, are just quite hostile media at times. But my colleagues aren't always helping, or some of my colleagues aren't helping. The majority of Conservative MPs, or now Conservative candidates that I know from my time serving in Parliament, are decent, hard-working people who, like me, want the best for their area. But evidently, there are some who don't fit that bill, and if I had my way, they'd have been kicked out of the party faster than you can say choice of words. So frustrated with that, disappointed with it, but you know, I would ask people to judge me on my record, and I think people know where I stand on all these things. But partly because I do this, right? I give a straight answer to a straight question.
And it kind of links to my next question. So, if constituents are kind of on the fence, they're undecided on how to vote, because I know you've had a few comments like that and a few emails. They feel that you have done a lot locally, which you have. You know, you've promised this, and you've got stuff done. You've done a lot locally, and you've always delivered on your promises. However, they are concerned about the national vote. So what do you say to those people that are undecided? I get that we've not made it easy for people to support us as a national party. I genuinely do get it. My ask to everyone is judge me on my record, judge me on what I've done for Burnley and Padiham and Briarfield, and that's both my record of delivery, but it's also how I do politics. Do you want a Member of Parliament who's willing to engage with you in this way, who's willing to set up outside a supermarket every single Saturday, not knowing what the questions are going to be, not knowing how friendly or supportive or hostile the reception might be, because I genuinely believe that my job is to represent people, and if I'm not putting myself out there, be it in the supermarket or on a Facebook Live, or going and doing my shopping in Tesco and being, you know, pretty happy when people stop to say, can I just mention something? Right, judge me on that, because that's what I want to keep doing for you. I have loved every single minute of being your Member of Parliament, and that includes some really challenging times. That includes the COVID pandemic. It includes watching war break out in Europe. It includes an energy crisis. It includes, you know, the death of our late Queen. There's been some really difficult, sad times in there, but the privilege and honour I felt at being the Member of Parliament, and not just being it, but trying to do that job in a way that I think does justice to all the people who put their trust in me. And that's what I hope people, when they walk into the ballot booth and they go to put their X in one of the boxes, that they just think about who they want sitting on those green benches from the 5th of July for the next 4.5-5 years. And, you know, their choice is me, and you know what you get with me. You've had 4.5 years to get to know me as a person, and I've loved getting to know the thousands of people that I've knocked on doors and spoken to and done things like this on. And you know, the next 5 years are totally uncertain.
no one knows what's going to happen in those 5 years. I can tell you that the world looks less certain, the world feels more dangerous. I can tell you that there are some big challenges coming down the horizon, domestic and international, right? We still got to deal with the small boats. We've got to get illegal migration to zero, and I mean zero because I have zero tolerance for illegal migration, so we've got to do that. We've got to get legal migration down to an acceptable level, and by acceptable I mean like tens of thousands, well under 100,000. I'd quite like 50,000 and under. I'm not even averse to a zero net migration, right? So those who come in equals those who go out, right? We can do all of those things, but everyone's got a choice about who they want sitting in the House of Commons to be their voice. And given that uncertainty in the world, I think the experience I've got from the last 4.5 years and the passion I've got for our area puts me in decent line. So what would I say? That was a really long answer, sorry. But what would I say to the undecided voter? It's judge me on my record and think about who you want to walk into the House of Commons on Friday the 5th of July.
Yep.
And who you want to represent you for the 5 years. Because those who are frustrated with my party, who want to send a message, I accept that. I am frustrated with my party some of the time. But 5 years is a long time. And if we don't have a voice in Westminster for 5 years, we saw what happened.
Yeah.
We saw the services leave our area. We saw the lack of investment.
Travesty. Amazing. It was a good answer. It was a long answer.
It was very long. Sorry.
It was a good answer. So Dale's come back, and so assuming that we're going to end up with a Labour government, how are you going to prevent more power being sapped away from Parliament to different committees, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most annoying parts of British politics that I've found. That there seems to be a never-ending list of quangos and organisations that you either have to consult with or who need to have a say on something. And actually, my fundamental view is people elect members of Parliament to go and be their voice, and that's kind of the end of, and that's the message I will take down, whoever is in government, that politicians are accountable, and so politicians should be responsible. And the idea that we siphon off all this responsibility to other groups is wrong, because I mean, this was the whole thing with the European Union, that you would get politicians knocking on your door and you could complain about something and the politicians would say, well, not my fault, that's the European Union. Well, the same goes for these ridiculous quangos. There should be no instance where you knock on a door and someone says, well, I want to complain about this, and the politician, well, sorry, not my fault, it's this organisation over here that you've probably never heard of. Right? I want to be certain that when I knock on doors, if someone wants to raise a concern with me about an issue, that I hold the ability to go and influence that.
Yeah, of course. So Sandra's come back and said a big thank you for raising the profile of Padiham. It used to be the place on the edge of Burnley that people drove through on the way to somewhere nice. Let's be honest, it looked down a bit of a dump, but now you can see the regeneration. You can see that there's money being spent there. So yeah, she just came back and said,
thanks,
thank you for that.
It's I love Padiham. I mean, I live in Hapton, so Padiham's got a special place for me because of it. But you're right. Like, now you drive through Padiham, and it looks fantastic. And never is that better showcased than Padiham on Parade. And so I'm going to give a shout out. Padiham on Parade is this Saturday and Sunday for everyone who wants to go to it. And if you've never been to it, I would highly recommend it. And if you've been before, then get yourself down there again, because it genuinely is brilliant. And the best thing about Padiham is there's still stuff happening.
Yeah.
So it's not just like now that the town centre's been revamped, now that we've got phase 1 of the flood defences, that's it. We've got the old Baxi site and looking at options, whether that becomes a beautiful green space or something else, right? There's still tons of potential for Padiham.
100%. And that kind of brings us to Graham's question. So the Duke Bar area, he said, is frankly looking very run down and is a free-for-all regarding crime.
Yeah.
So any kind of plans to clean this up, or?
Yeah, and was it Graham?
It is Graham.
Graham, 100%. So, I talk about £52 million in levelling up money. Some of that money we have apportioned, so it's part of a bid that we put in with Lancashire County Council. Some of that has been apportioned for kind of that part of Burnley, so essentially going all the way up Cullen Road, covering the Duke Bar area. Now in the short term, what we want to do is do stuff like average speed cameras, traffic calming measures, extra CCTV, better street lighting, because your point about crime and antisocial behaviour, you can only solve that if you've got the tools to be able to then prosecute.
Yeah.
So that's why we want the extra CCTV. We know that Cullen Road is like a speedway, particularly at night time, so average speed cameras will help with stuff like that. Once we've started to get a handle on some of those issues, we can then start to look and go, right, okay, how do we now start to revamp the area and start to make it an area that we can be proud of again? And, you know, I'll be honest, I don't think at the minute that it is an area that we can be totally proud of. It's not, it doesn't showcase the best of Burnley, and I genuinely love the place we all call home, and I want every part of it to look its absolute best. I want every part of it to be somewhere that people go, this is where I want to bring up a family, and that bit isn't. So we've got some of the money to do some of the infrastructure type stuff, street lighting, CCTV, average speed cameras, and we'll try and do a bit of public realm improvement at the same time. Some of that is working with shop owners, right? So one thing that you can do quite quickly is you can work with shop owners to revamp the front of the shop so you get a bit more consistency and a nicer appearance. Then you need to be able to use compulsory purchase powers, so that if you've got rundown, derelict shops, council can purchase them. So we legislated for that in the last parliament that I was in. So we legislated to allow councils to buy back derelict properties. Again, that's some of the money that the long-term plan for towns, that £20 million can be used on as well. So we've got the money over here to do the infrastructure stuff. Then we've got the long-term plan for towns that would allow us to look at areas like Duke Bar and go, well, what are the things we can do? And sometimes that's not spending big money, right? You can give small grants to community groups and to shops, and that allows them to do little bits, and slowly you start to rebuild an area. And that to me is one of the things we need to do better in our area. We need to work with businesses and with organisations and with residents, rather than treating everything like, well, this can only be done by the council with big money, right? You can use small pots of money far more effectively, and you reduce some of the waste that sadly we all know happens in local government.
Which links to, I keep saying which links to, but it does. It links to Steve's question. So over the last 12 months, numerous businesses have been burgled, causing distress to hard-working people trying to make a living. Is it possible that you could recommend police officers to walk around the town?
100%.
6 a.m. till 2 p.m, 2 p.m. till 10, and then 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. Is this something that you'd be...
100%. We know, in fact, everyone knows, right? It's common sense that the biggest deterrent to crime is police officers on foot. Over and above anything else. That is the best thing you can do to deter crime. In Padiham, from last July, so almost a full year ago, we got some extra money from the Home Office to start hotspot policing. So using the data, Lancashire Constabulary got all the data together and gone, right, okay, where are our antisocial behaviour hotspots? What time of day is the biggest issue, and what day of the week is the biggest issue? And from that, they built a picture. And so since last July, on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in an evening, there's been extra foot patrols in Padiham to tackle antisocial behaviour, and it's worked. Arrests are up, stop and search is up, crime is coming down, business engagement is up, resident engagement is up, intelligence gathering for the police is up, and that's how they build pictures on some of the more serious crime. So we know it works. What we now want to do, and that was launched under an operation called Operation Centurion. So if you see mention on the Burnley and Padiham Police Facebook page or the Briarfield Police Facebook page of Operation Centurion, that's what it is. It's this hotspot policing on foot. So the requirement of the money isn't just that it's targeted on certain days and at certain times, it's that officers are on foot.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to be driving around in a car.
That's
because
what makes a difference.
normal police officers will do that. And the reason it's extra money is because we don't want to take away from normal policing. So this doesn't take officers away from blue light responsibilities and responding to 999 calls. This is extra police officers working overtime using extra money. So we know it works because it's worked in Padiham. And what we now want to do is roll that out to other hotspot areas, including, was it Steve, you said?
It was Steve.
Steve, as you said, to areas where we know we've got an increase in burglaries because we can see the days, the times, and so just having those officers on foot in relatively compact geographical areas will have a massive deterrent effect.
And Mick has said, last time you were live, which is a few weeks ago now, he asked about more police around Pendle Way. There have been cars broken into, motorbikes stolen, houses broken into. What are you going to do? Is there police officers up there kind of walking around, or?
So we've not had the deployment of hotspot police in there yet, and I can't. So now that Parliament's dissolved, I'm a normal member of the public, so I can't right now say, well, my next meeting with the police, I'll raise it. But assuming I'm successful on the 4th of July, then Mick, of course, I'll make sure it's raised with them. I will also make sure that your local borough councils are made aware of it as well, because they've got an important relationship with the local police, including the PCSOs and the PC who covers the area. So I'll make sure they're aware. And if you drop me a private message with your address, what I'll do is I'll make sure that when the borough councillors raise that with the police, they come back to you. Or, again, if I'm successful on the 5th of July, I'll come back to you as well.
I hope that's a good answer for you, Steve. So Risa said, sorry, we're kind of tip-topping from different subjects. Some people might say that even if you've been a good MP, you won't be able to do as much as an opposition MP. What do you say to people that are concerned about that? So they're kind of voting for you, but they're concerned about Labour overall.
I think if you're a good MP, you're a good MP, whatever the circumstances. That's what defines a good member of Parliament. It's someone who will stand up and fight our corner, our area's corner, whatever the circumstances, whatever the politics. And that is my promise to all of you. Whatever the outcome of the national election, whoever forms the government, my job, just as it was over the last 4.5 years, my job is to be your voice in Parliament, to be your voice to government, to make sure I'm standing up for our local area, driving results in, delivering for people, bringing in the government investment, working with businesses. That is, whoever forms the government, that is my job. And actually, there are examples around the country, right, of good local constituency MPs who aren't in the governing party. And politics is not just about the colour of the rosette you wear on your lapel. It's about what you do for people, and that is not just determined by party. I've been fortunate in the last 4.5 years to make friends with MPs from other parties, and you can see the good ones and you can see the ones who are interested in it for tribal reasons. And as I said, if I have the privilege of being re-elected, then I'll work night and day to repay that trust as I have done over the last 4.5 years, including if that means sitting on the other side of the House of Commons and holding, the Labour Party to account, holding them to account, making sure that they understand our values, fighting for your views and your priorities, but also working with them where I need to bring in the government investment. You can do both things.
You can. So Chantel said, how long are you live for? Chantel, we have another 15 minutes.
Another 15 minutes.
So 15 minutes. So if you've got a question, pop it on.
But you can always watch it back. So
you can.
if you've missed the start of it, you can always rewind.
You can.
You can rewind me live. I'm like a Sky TV set.
I don't think it'll go.
No.
So we got one from Roger. Let me just find it. Did you vote for Liz Truss over Rishi Sunak to become your leader, or did you back Rishi from the start?
No, I didn't back Rishi from the start. So I initially, God, this takes me back. I initially backed Penny Mordaunt to be leader of the Conservative Party. Obviously, Penny dropped out towards the end, and then it became a straight choice, and I backed Liz at that point. I'm not going to say that Liz Truss didn't make mistakes, because very obviously she did, and we can all see that through history.
So, going back to the Labour candidate being from Manchester, I think you said he was from Audenshaw, right? So, do Labour think that Manchester is local to Burnley? Maybe that's kind of why they're pushing
Well,
that so
do you know
much.
what? I remember, I think it was the first time I did BBC Sunday Politics after being elected. So we're talking, I think it was early 2020, kind of
Oh, okay.
pre-COVID. And I did BBC Politics. I drove over to Salford, to Media City, and I was sat there. And I was on with a Labour MP. And we were talking about government investment. And this Labour MP was trying to defend their record, and she said, "That's not true. We invested in the cities." And I said, "Well, that's kind of the point.
The cities.
That you're totally focused on the cities and totally ignoring the towns. And most people in this country live in towns, including the area I was very proud to represent and hope to represent again." And so, do Labour think Manchester is close to Burnley? I think they think everything is just a satellite of a city. Genuinely, I think they look at Burnley and go, "Well, how do we better connect it to big cities?"
I get that.
And we've got so much going for it. Right? Lancashire is the 4th largest aerospace cluster of companies in the world. We don't need a city to do that. That's what we do already.
And haven't we got the best college?
We've got the top college in the
top
country.
college, yeah.
We've got a growing university campus. We've got tons of engineering and manufacturing businesses. We've got a growing digital cluster. And if we go further afield in our county, we've got BAE Systems. You know, find me a friendly air force in the world who's not using parts made by one of our aerospace companies. We've got National Cyber Force being established in Samlesbury, so just next to BAE Systems. That's going to employ thousands of people, including, we hope, people from around here. That's why Burnley College and UCLan are starting to offer courses in cyber security.
We've got so much going for us.
We've got so much going for us. You don't need to be a city. But yes, I suspect Labour would say that Manchester is basically akin to Burnley. Well, I mean, you see it, right? The Labour candidate himself says,
He's a Lancashire lad.
says he's a local lad. Well, if renting a flat for a couple of months makes you a local lad, then so help us.
That's how easy it is, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry to keep on the Labour subject, but Starmer, Don says, has said so much, but given hardly any answers. So we've seen the debates, there's another one on tonight, right? So he's kind of given questions, but he's not given answers.
Yeah.
We're almost kind of thinking,
What will be?
what will...
Yeah, and this is a big problem, and I don't think the media are putting Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are under enough scrutiny on this, because, you know, as I said in an answer earlier on, 5 years is what a government gets.
Long time.
And if Keir Starmer gets this supermajority that he wants, which is what he'll get if the vote on the right of politics is split and all of that, if he gets this supermajority, he's got 5 years to do whatever he wants. And unfortunately, because they won't answer a straight question, we don't know what that will be.
It's very scary.
So I was at the hustings I was at last week, business hustings with businesses, business rates came up, and the Labour candidate said, well, we're going to deliver a fairer business rates system. And there was no substance behind it. So businesses across Burnley will look at the Labour Party manifesto and go, well, you're promising to totally change the business rate system. We know what it is at the minute. We know how much it costs us. We can factor that into all our plans. But we have no idea what this fairer is. Fairer for who?
Yeah.
Who's it going to be fairer for? Because in every policy there are winners and losers, right? I mean, that's politics. Politics is about choosing, and it's about trying to make something work. And the problem with the Labour Party is they're not being honest with people about the choices they're going to make, about the taxes they're going to raise, about the spending they're not going to undertake. And you know, that's why I do these Facebook Lives, because I believe straight answers to straight questions.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you always give answers to every question.
I wish the Labour Party would do likewise. And if I don't give a straight answer, then people can come back and Abby, you hold me to account and say, well, you know, this person has said you've not answered properly, so
answer again, please. So Dale's come back again. What policy do do you think Storm's going to drop next? He's actually called him Mr. Flip Flop.
Yeah.
Gonna drop.
Well,
It's quite catchy.
Keir Starmer has now gone back, totally U-turned, on every promise I think he made to the Labour Party membership when he was running for leader. And if he will go back on all of them promises, and bear in mind that was only 4.5 years ago, every single one he's changed on. If he'll do that with the Labour Party, he'll do it with the country. So whatever you're reading in the Labour manifesto, just be warned that it might not survive contact with government. And you know, we've seen £28 billion green energy pledge. He U-turned on that, so it's now not £28 billion. But can we guarantee that he's not going to come into government and go, no, actually we're going to do 28 billion because I said it at the start? Well, that can only be paid for in one of two ways: it's taxes or it's spending. So which policy would he drop next? I wish I knew, but you've got a whole manifesto to wade through. You know, pick a page.
Page. I like it. Yeah, so Sandra's lovely on this live. She's going to vote for you and you on your record and not the party. And you should get voted in again. Janice has come and said you should get voted in again. What will your initial plans be for Burnley and Padiham? Once, you know, if re-elected, what's the initial, what's the step?
Well, thank you for the kind comments. What are my initial plans if I get re-elected? Well, it's back to the day job. It's back to doing what we were doing 6 weeks ago. It's sitting back on the town board and engaging with everyone and going, what is it you want to spend £20 million on? What are the issues in Burnley that we want to address? It's going back to the Department of Health, whoever is sitting in there as Secretary of State, and saying, right, here are the plans. What can we do with them? It's going to Lancashire County Council and saying, right, let's walk through the road prioritisation list. Let's make sure that Burnley's getting its fair share of that money. It's going and sitting with the police again and saying, right, and these are all people that I've got established relationships with. Right? The relationship that I like to think I've built up with everyone who's watching this by being an honest broker and saying it how it is and trying to work for you, that's the same relationship I've built up with businesses and the university and the college and the NHS and the police and everyone. And you know, that means on 5th of July, if I'm re-elected and have that privilege again, then it's back to business. Right? This is an important job and it's too important to let it slide. So yeah, I'm looking forward to day one again.
To day one. Day one of back to
Day
work.
one Mark 2.
I like it. So we've got 7 minutes left of the live. So I was thinking, let's do a run through of why, Anthony.
Right.
Why you can make it 7 minutes long.
Oh.
Or if any questions come in, I will. Oh, Janice says thank you. So yeah, why should we put the cross next to Anthony Higginbotham on the 4th of July?
On Friday the 5th of July, you're going to wake up. Everyone in Burnley will wake up and they'll wake up to find out who their Member of Parliament is. And in me, you've got somebody who not only has a track record of fighting for this area, but who got elected and said, I'm going to do politics differently. I'm not going to allow us to be forgotten and ignored as we'd seen for decades. The Labour Party have represented Burnley for more than 100 of the last 110 years.
Wow.
And if, like me, you think that their record is not always a good one, if, like me, you think that they took our area for granted, that they decimated some of our local services, then don't go back to them. Because in 2019, people voted for a change. You know, when I won in 2019, it was seismic. I was the first Conservative for more than 100 years. That's what change looks like. And change does take time. And it is frustrating. I wish it was quicker than it always has been. But look at what we've done in the last 4.5 years. Right? In the last 4.5 years, Burnley has finally been represented in the House of Commons in a positive light. My colleagues know where Burnley is. They know what we're good at. Our college is firing on all cylinders. We've got a university that's going from 1,000 students to 6,000 students. That means our young people don't have to leave the borough. It means our businesses can expand and adapt to new technologies without sending their employees off. So if you're an international business with a base in Burnley going, right, okay, where are we going to put our next line of production? Well, I'm going to put it in Burnley because they've got the skills, and I can see that their politicians care, and I can see that they're fighting for their area. That's what I think people should walk into the polling booth and think, you know, who do you want sitting on the green benches of the House of Commons? Yeah. And you know, I hope we don't take that step backwards back to the Labour Party, because we all know that whilst they might claim to be the party of change, in Burnley and Padiham, Labour are not change.
And it's so uncertain.
Yeah.
So uncertain.
Yeah, and we don't know what they would do.
Yeah, it's so uncertain, and like you said, you've got plans.
Yeah.
And sorry to cut you in, but we
Yeah.
have had more questions.
Oh.
And as per the manifesto,
Yeah.
so Heather's come in. What, in layman's terms, are the benefits for local folks in and around Burnley from the Conservatives manifesto that you think could change people's views and opinions and will you know, give them a better life?
I mean, our manifesto is rooted in just decent common sense proposals, and too often you don't find this in politics. You find manifestos full of lofty political statements and ambitions, and actually if you look at our manifesto, it's about building more community diagnostic centres, you know. And what is a community diagnostic centre? It's a whole new radiology suite.
That you all want.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about doing things that make a tangible difference in the place we all call home, wherever in the country that is. It's about supporting our small and medium-sized businesses. So if you're a small business in Burnley, in the manifesto there's a 10-point plan for how you support small businesses. And some of that is really technical, but some of it is just making sure that you're paid on time.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're a small business just starting up, that really matters. It's about making sure that those long-term plan for towns, the £20 million that I said Burnley's got, that we don't know if we'll keep if Labour come in, because they've said they're going to review it. That's what's important for our community, because that's what allows us to invest in the things that residents tell us they care about. And all that we're going to see, if the Labour Party win, is money like that siphoned back to the centre and spent on what the Labour Party decide is the local priority, based on the views of someone who has never stepped foot in Burnley before they were appointed as the parliamentary candidate.
Yeah, so true. And it's things like the tax is gonna rise, and
You're gonna see,
but again,
yeah.
you know, Storm won't answer questions on that.
No,
It's kind of like a
I mean, he said the other day taxes on working people won't rise, but then wouldn't say what his definition of a working person is.
yeah.
He seemed to suggest anyone with a bit of savings wasn't a working person. Well, tell that to the people living across Burnley and Padiham and Briarfield who work really hard and put a little bit of money away for that rainy day.
Yeah.
Tell them that they're not working people who aren't working hard for their money. Tell them that they deserve to see some of that money taxed under a so-called wealth tax.
Yeah, and it's kind of, as Dale said, they plead poverty, and all they say is, you know, everything's terrible.
Well, it's the politics of negativity. You know, this is what Burnley got used to for 100+ years, of MPs standing up at the House of Commons to say how terrible everything was, and people watch that. Businesses watch that when they're looking to make investment decisions. Normal people watch that when they're looking to decide where to go and buy a house and raise their family. And I will never tire of standing up and saying that we are the best place in the country because of our amazing education system, because of the affordability of our houses, our amazing green spaces, the businesses that exist here. That's not to say we don't have challenges. Of course we do. Mm-hmm. That's why stuff like the long-term plan for towns is so important, because it allows us to address some of those things. But you want a politician who's proud to call Burnley their home. Because if you're not proud to call Burnley your home, then you really shouldn't be sitting in the House of Commons saying you're the Member of Parliament for Burnley. Very
good answer. And with that, it is 7:30.
Right. In which case, let me thank Abby for
thank you very much for having me,
being
everyone.
our question master. And thank all of you for tuning in. I hope it's been interesting and informative. And, you know, I'm going to end on one final plea. The choice in this election is really clear locally. It's a vote for me, someone that you know, who will throw their heart and soul and every waking minute into being the best Member of Parliament you could be, or going back to the time when Burnley was a stepping stone for someone else so they can join that political ladder and climb the greasy pole. And that's not what I think Burnley politics should be about. It should be about you and your family and what all of us call home, and making this the best possible place. So, you know, if you want that candidate who's going to work for you and represent your views and your priorities in Parliament, then vote for me on the 4th of July. And please tell your friends and family, because we listen to each other, and the more people hear about what you think of me as your MP of the last couple of years and your parliamentary candidate now, then, you know, hopefully that gives me the best shot of continuing to do the job that I was so proud to do and hope to do again. And on that, I will wish you all a happy sunny evening. The sun's still out, and I'll catch you all on the campaign trail. See you later.